Hello, everybody. Today on the Titans Up Today podcast, we have Charles Denson, a property tax entrepreneur who has created quite a compelling business. And I'm making this intro because you might notice something in this video, in this podcast. It was live streamed, so the lead in is not as good. So I want to do a proper introduction here for Charles. He's built a business that is now doing multi-million dollar in revenue a year from nothing by consistently putting in the time, the effort, the work, and he's going to talk about that with you all today. Now, how can you catch the live stream? /JVandy on Twitch. Go ahead and check it out on Saturdays, every single Saturday now that Titans Up Today is back. We're going to be live streaming the episodes first so you can catch them there. Otherwise, you're going to see them maybe a week or 2 weeks or even more delayed, just because we have a queue built up of new episodes coming out. And again, those will be dropping every Friday. We'll be doing probably 1 to 3 episodes dropping every Friday, but you can catch those live streams. With that being said, let's go ahead and get right on into the interview. I'm very happy to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. So for those who don't know who you are, obviously we have some questions I'll ask, but give us a background on who you are and what brings you to the Titans of Today show.
Sure. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur, 31 years old. I live in Houston, Texas, and I run a company that helps property owners and businesses lower their property taxes, which is a big deal down here. That's our big tax down here. That's what I do.
And so let's talk more about property tax. A lot of different kinds of taxes are becoming subject with the Trump administration coming in and all that. The ERS, did you hear about that?
A little bit.
The External Revenue Service, so changing things to tariffs, potentially doing away with certain types of property taxes. Let's dive deeper on property tax as a subject first so people can understand your business. So let's say I live in Texas, I own a property. I'm subject to no income tax, right? No income tax in Texas, but the property taxes are higher. So if I'm one of those property owners, there's probably friends that I have here who are listening to this. What do you do for people out in Texas that allows them to save money and that you built a business on top of? I think it's super interesting, right? It's like these very niche thing that not a lot of people realize, but you've captured a massive opportunity with it. So tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it is a niche of niches, right? No one wakes up out of bed and thinks about taxes, but I come at it from the real estate angle and an entrepreneurial angle that I find really exciting. Property taxes as a concept are a very localized tax. So most states have them to a degree. It's just how much do they have the tax? A lot of states have either an income tax or a heavy property tax. Texas does not have income tax. They have a heavy property tax and a medium-sized sales tax. So that's how the localities are funded. So Texas gets a lot of attention for being a very business-friendly state. A lot of people move here. We've seen those trends for many years now. Huge metropolitan cities. It's obviously a huge landmass, lots of oil, gas, lots of industries, healthcare, very diversified economy. People do move here and maybe see the opportunity, but they may not dig into the details of the property tax, and they get into owning a home or owning a business, and the property tax bill becomes pretty significant. And so I find that interesting because it's really one component. You have the interest rates in your mortgage get a ton of national attention, right? The other two components that I think I saw something the other day now have passed. The mortgage cost is actually the property tax and insurance cost more combined. You look at the pillar of California wildfires and insurance. So people are talking about insurance, but property tax is that other component. So people are spending the most amount of money on their housing, and those three things, interest rates, property tax, and insurance, as boring as they all sound, are very important to manage.
And when you can tap into the rails of really the economy and the way our government or certain areas of business function, you've tapped into that. And so you help people get a fair assessment or a new assessment of their property. And then basically with that difference, you're able to say, here, we've saved you this money. We capture that back, performance-based.
Yeah, it's an easy concept, right? We go to bat for people. And if we win, we charge them a fee. We charge them a third of what we save. So it's a win. And as a property owner in Texas, I like how this is written into law. It's your obligation to go and fight it. The government's going to the county governments are going to throw out like an appraisal and they say it's worth $1 million. You're like, no way I could get $1 million for my house. It's worth 800 probably. We come in, we're the experts to find a good value. We negotiate and go to hearings. And then it's a reoccurring business model. So our clients work with us every year to do it. In Texas, you have to unfortunately do this every year.
Right.
Good for me.
Oh, it's great. And so now that people understand the genius behind the business, how about actually the genius behind the business or just yourself, your life path? We talked a little bit about that in depth, which I thought was very interesting in our first interviews. Let's dive back into your early roots, some of the formative things that you saw that formed your identity and that desire to be an entrepreneur, and then your path to working 80 plus hours a week, I believe it was, and you're going to school and doing all these things, and you just really went for it, which I can resonate with. But tell us a little bit more about that story.
Yeah. So I went to the University of Texas in Austin, Hookham, and my end of my third year of college, I got into like real estate, like leasing apartments for other students. And I thought it was super cool because I could make a percentage of their lease. So you make little chunks of money, and it's a lot for a college kid. And I just stacked that on top of being a full-time student and like made six figures of income just like on the side. I thought it was awesome. And during that time, I actually had an internship with an oil company back in Houston for the summer. And I was a finance degree. I thought maybe I wanted to be in finance or accounting because that's what everyone does. That's what they push down your throat. There's no one really inspiring you to be an entrepreneur in the college system, in my opinion. And so I got to this internship and it was quite honestly sad. I was like, this can't be the answer after college of where I'm going to be my whole life. Like everyone's saying, oh, you get this nice salary and you get the benefits. I'm like, I'm making more money and helping people find a freaking apartment. This doesn't add up to me. So I got the offer and I was 21 years old and I could secure a job after college. And I was like, no, thank you. The office politics, they're always mad at me for going to eat lunch by myself because I was calling customers to try to sell an apartment. And so that's where my entrepreneurial spirit started. And actually the company that I was working for, Richie and Morgan Gill, their husband and wife owned it. And those are my business partners now. So I've actually worked with them. Flash forward, I've worked with them for 10 years. We started our property tax business in 2019. And we in between there, I sold a lot of real estate, like investment properties. We managed asset management, property management, which taught me a ton about the grit. Like you don't really have any money and like you're trying to like piece together deals and get good at sales because it's just a hustle business. You're pitching investors and then you're trying to negotiate a sale. And that was a very critical part. And also managing tenants, very critical part of my development of dealing with people and being in the real estate world and being able to talk real estate. And I became a broker. And then I realized I was like, this is great. Like I've sold some pretty cool like apartment complexes. I could keep doing this, but we're doing this property tax component for our clients already. There's a reoccurring business model. There's not really a lot of competition at the time. There wasn't. Now there is more of property tax companies. So that's why we started this, and it's really taken off.
Mm-hmm. And the thing I love about entrepreneurship, or I've just been coming into my mind more recently, is nothing happens automatically. And so you mentioned that part of the grit. In some form, do you feel that you do have some drive or sense of purpose that perpetually drives you forward? And what are the actions that over your career have not occurred automatically? So what I'm saying is, it does seem, if I analyze myself personally, there's a certain portion of things that I will do that are just part of that drive. And it's, I got to get up and I want to push this business forward. And then there's the next step of things, which is things that you're learning to do, things that you're developing that you don't have that automatic process for yet. So as you were going out your entrepreneurial journey, developing the grit and to where you are now, how has, your workflow and your work ethic and the things that you're doing to produce the results you are changed and developed?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is showing up and working hard. You can't replace that, especially in the early days. Like that's how you learn, or at least how I learned. And having your back up against the wall when you literally put all your money into an idea or a business or you're trying to pay bills, that really motivates you quickly to work those 80-hour weeks. And I think over time you figure things out and then you can work more efficiently in certain areas. Like you can take certain marketing things and systems we built around marketing and getting like clients in and getting them signed up. Like that used to look totally different. Having to talk to everyone on the phone to put them on a spreadsheet. And now you have technology and software behind it because you figured out things. So I think you got to also make a lot of sacrifice, and That's nights and weekends, unfortunately, for most businesses, not doing what the flow of other 25-year-olds are doing, other 30-year-olds are doing to get ahead. I think that's an edge you can create.
Hmm. And let's talk about the trade-offs in your mind, because when someone takes strong action, it's because in their mind, they've wired the trade-off of that sacrifice of the Saturday night or the late night to be worth less than the value that they'll create and get. And you also mentioned it earlier in your career as well, when you had the stable job and you realize that, wait, I'm capped here at 100 and maybe I can go up 3% or 6% and maybe I can get a little performance boost or bonus. But you realize that I have to go jump in the valley and take my risk in the valley, which is like you're saying, like, we have to make this sale or we have to achieve this goal or else we can't support ourselves. And you went in the valley so that you could emerge into the point where you are now. So let's talk about how you were able to form some of those trade-offs in your mind, your internal communication, because that is actually what prevents a lot of people. They don't see that. They see, if I jump in the valley, I'm going to lose the 100. And then so how is that? What occurs in your mind during those times?
Yeah, so I think it came from early on in my life. I grew up in a suburb of Houston where a ton of people worked in big oil companies. They had very nice, I would say, high middle class jobs, right? They live in a nice enough house. They drive a nice enough car. They have a few kids. They go to very good schools. You pull back the hood, they may be living paycheck to paycheck. The dad gets laid off because oil prices go down. There's other industries too. There's healthcare and some other big industries, but my point being is I actually think it's more risky to work for a very large corporation. You can definitely go there and make money and rise the ranks, and it's worked for a lot of people. But from my opinion, I think it's riskier because you could show up and you're eliminated the next day. And I saw it time and time again. To me, actually being an entrepreneur is less risky because I can invest in myself and roll the dice myself. And I've gotten very close to wanting to call it quits a few years ago, back like when we were starting. But I'm like so thankful to God that I didn't and just kept persevering through. I see a lot of people that are on the fence of, oh, should I try my side gig or I don't know. I think you do. Most people are going to have to go all in unless you can really figure out a nice little setup for a side gig and build it organically. We've done everything bootstrapped organically, dumping in our own savings, maxing out credit cards. We don't have investors, we don't have debt. And now that we've built that, we have a very stable business that can just grow on top of itself. And I see that just a lot less risky than, I don't know, being a corporate employee.
Now let's go into that calling it quits moment. What were the things, and the saying that pops up in my mind is the 3 feet from gold. Was it one of those moments where you were like looking around, things felt damned, or you felt frustrated, but just a little bit further, you were able to hit that success? Or what was it specifically for you in that time?
He lagged a little bit on the live stream here, but I think I got your flow. I would actually, we actually started three businesses at once and threw up against the wall what would stick, which I don't recommend. We thought we could start like a property tax business, an insurance business, and a data business. And the data business didn't work right away. Insurance we held on to and spun it off and sold it for, it was a very small segment, and the property tax worked. I remember at that time, I'm like, man, which one's going to work? What am I doing here? And I think when you hit that wall, you're like 95% there. You've done so much to like just push that extra 5%. And in our case, back that was like 2021. It really took off. I went really extreme, like nights and weekends, just sales, build the funnel, whatever way possible. How can we get more eyeballs on our company to get more customers? And that's what fueled us.
And what was really that gap? And was it you tested a new offer, new pitching, new, like, was there a tactical change as well that came where there was a specific campaign or an offer or copywriting that worked at that time that you didn't have before?
Yeah, honestly, we weren't even into copywriting and like social media back then. As a young company, like you have to focus on just get the $100 in the door. So what we did at the time was really build an email list as much as possible. So in our industry, we have different segments of people that relate to real estate. We're like trying to build our email lists. So cranking that up as much as possible without hitting spam, just soliciting people all day long.
Hmm.
And then warm outreach. So just finding businesses hitting templates in my Gmail every morning, 50 emails a day. And then I think we even did some cold calling back then. There's a few clients I cold called and I had to sound bigger than we were. That's the grind period, which looking back is pretty awesome. And then we didn't have enough money. We had to charge like customers up front a little bit so we could fund our Google ads. And we were starting to figure out Google ads and meta ads. We literally needed the person to pay us so we could run a chunk of ads the next day. So thinking through all those things at the time was how we got however many clients we got at that time. I don't know, a couple thousand. Mm-hmm. But now we have more resources and more cash and more systems that we can flow in thousands of clients in a given tax season.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of pieces there that I think are very interesting. One is the bigger than you were. You needed to appear bigger than you were. So I think this is something that is never talked about in entrepreneurship, but is 100% necessary. And even so, let's say you're a young person like you or myself. You're 22 and you're going to come into this company and go, "Hey, I have this thing that I'm super good at," and maybe we've only have 2 or 3 success stories, right?
Yeah.
They want to see you as this. The value that you have is far beyond what they need to see, but you have to actually put yourself out there. I remember having to convince different people that I could run their marketing or do different things or be supportive in influential ways. So talk about that, maybe a particular example that you had there, one of the companies. And now, if you look forward, you have all the success. You have many proven examples. You've helped corporations and people and whatnot. So you've proven it, but there was a time where you didn't. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a fine line between bullshitting and like fabricating. So one of the things I would use is, hey, we are new. I am young. I'm going to charge less and I'm going to work harder for you. And that worked in a few different companies. That obviously worked in tax, but even when I was like doing brokerage stuff, like old guys like that. They're like, okay, I can hire this guy and he's going to work his ass off for me. And he's going to do it cheaper than the established firm. So no matter what industry you're in, I think you can use that edge as a young self-starter. And I think that the kind of the BSing part is, hey, you know what's actually, I've done it for a few other people and it's working, or however you want to frame it, whatever your business is, or I've done this in the past. And you don't really have to say a number like you're doing hundreds or thousands. Like we've done this in the past. It works.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I actually talked to one of my first clients about that. And I remember him at the time. He's like, oh, like y'all work from home. No wonder why y'all can charge 30% instead of 50%. This is cool. I'll give you a chance. And he's been a client since then. So find those edges. You're not going to be able to compete against the biggest guys right away. Use the truth of what you are to your advantage.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely leveraging the successes that you do have, even if they're minor. Maybe you're just getting started, you've never had a job, and you're like, you know what, I crushed my fundraiser as a Boy Scout. And I got #1 and I worked my ass off, right? So if you could be starting out to that level, and then as you build, hey, I was the top sales leader in this organization, or hey, I achieved this thing, or I wrote this program, and you just keep stacking and stacking those to the point where
I would rather, for whatever service it is, I would rather hire like a boutique self-starter guy than go hire a huge company where they rotate my account executive every 4 weeks because the guys are quitting because their sales commission is not enough. I don't know. That's just me.
And then nowadays, how has that communication changed when you're in front of a significant client? Let's say it's an extremely high net worth individual. It could be, you said that you've done, what was the highest property value you've done?
Oh gosh, we've done properties that are a few hundred million. It varies. There's portfolios that are multiple buildings, but our sweet spot is actually like high-end residential and small businesses. So it tends to actually be other entrepreneurs that they have a few houses, they have an office building, whatever it may be. So we're not the guys doing the skyscrapers. That's just a little bit about us. But I would say now it's more about showing than telling. So when I first started off, I had to really sell hard and be on the phone and pitching and please to God, sign up for our service. Now it's more marketing than it is sales. I want people to see it for themselves when they go on our website or go online about what we do. And we transparently, all of our information is publicly available. So we just broadcast that onto our website and they can see and make a decision if they want to work with us. And if they call, we're not going to oversell them. We're going to tell them the facts of what we do. If they want to sign up, they can, great. And if we save you money, great. Like, I'm not going to beg anyone to come sign up.
Exactly. So the results and the proof is there now, right? You have enough data, enough success stories, all these things proven out so that someone can come to the website and say, hey, here's your property, here's our estimation. If you want to do it, great. If not, you can do
Yeah.
it somewhere else.
And the next guy, maybe the guy that's 10 years behind me, he can say, hey, you know what? You're my only client and I'll work 24/7 for you. And someone might take a chance on that guy.
Exactly. So there's opportunity in the market for everybody. And you just need
Yeah.
to leverage your angle, whatever that is. And sometimes it's literally just wanting it more than the other person
Yeah.
or even
Yeah. And
needing
I
it.
think competition's good. Competition's great, especially, I don't know, maybe there's certain industries that aren't like maybe realtor. That's a very like saturated market, but a lot of things like have a lot of room for someone to get to jump into that already exist.
Hmm. I want to go into some of those things. And I think as a overview, one thing I've learned from you is just the general appetite for risk. We talked about in the early stages what that value looked like. But then, even as you're growing and scaling your business, you said that you were closing a client and then using that money to go and continue to run ads literally the next day. And I know Alex Hormozi talks about this where their ad campaigns are maxed out. So they're betting on themselves and saying, I will sell 15% of these people, or it's going to go bust. And I need to like restart and figure out what the heck's going to happen. So it's just like that dial. You've turned the dial up, and that risk-taking appetite is great. So there's some questions there, but I really want to go back also to that, really the maniacal sales focus that you had. And it really just came down to a point in that valley portion of the journey where it was just more offers, more people, and really dialing in that offer audience channel sort of paradigm where you have a specific offer that's working to this office audience in the channel. Tell us a little bit more about some of those sales efforts and the iterations that occurred with that before it was all marketing driven.
Yeah, I think I'm a sales and marketing person first. Like you can have the best business idea, you can have the best execution, but if you're not bringing in customers, none of it's going to matter. A sales perspective, I like just to help people, and I'm very real, and I have a easygoing voice to talk to them, and I would follow up. Like I didn't even have systems built out, and I would know like my mind's going all day long. I need to follow up a few days after with so and email fast. Like I had to get a second phone because I was so obsessed in my bed of responding to emails. I'm like, I have to finally take a breath here. Clients appreciated that. Like you don't have to always respond in 2 minutes, but maybe if you do, you might end up getting more customers. Picking up the phone, not being afraid to talk, like simple things. Our company actually we still are one of the few only companies that answer the phones.
Hmm.
And something as simple as that may actually get you the sale. So I think it's very basic stuff. Good, really good grammar on your emails. I'm super picky about rereading my emails and punctuation and grammar and all that. Never miss a missed email. Never miss a missed call. If I miss a call, I'm calling them back in 5 minutes. I don't know. Those traits can really take you a long way. And then when you have enough customers, you can build out marketing.
So in those early
And
stages,
also,
go ahead.
I'll also say I wasn't always confident in what we were selling at the beginning. Well, I was confident in myself. It took a little bit of time to build a superpower team. And now my team is amazing. I got guys that have been doing this for 25 years. Like I know I'm selling the best product or service. But at the time I was like, I don't know. I'm just doing really good at sales. And I hope we make this work. And you can't be afraid of that because whatever you're building is not going to be perfect up front.
And what seems service as sales is a principle people can adopt from what you're saying because your commitment to delivering an excellent service, being responsive, being available, there to help, drove your sales. And when you really focus on where had the boundary of confidence that you had to push through to in the confidence in the service, the confidence in the quality of the product, let's call it, versus the service that leads up to it, is like that commitment to service carried you along the way to the point where you could build the commitment in the product in the back end.
I think so. And I really like that kind of saying because I didn't want to have a next conversation with a client that we didn't execute on something. So I figured out, okay, how am I going to make my team execute on this? I see a lot of small businesses make the mistake of, oh, I'm a service first and marketing second. It just means you don't know how to market. You should be very committed to marketing to grow your business because if something does happen bad, something's going to happen with the customer. They're going to drop off. They're going to cancel for their own reasons. You need to have thousands more so it doesn't affect you.
Just writing that bit down. Service first, marketing second. So you say that's the wrong approach, service marketing
That's
second.
the wrong approach.
Yeah, what do you mean exactly by that? Because I
Yeah,
think you guys got really good at marketing along the way.
yeah, marketing and sales. So you got to be bringing in the top of the funnel for customers and clients. So even if you're a very small company that works with companies, if one of them's Google and Google decides to drop you, your business is toast. So if you just focus on the funnel, I think it solves a lot of problems, even though it may feel overwhelming. Like, how am I going to deliver for all these customers? It's a lot easier to figure out how to do that than how to survive without enough customers. So that's why I'm just, you don't, it's a fine line again. Like, you can't be scamming people that you're like marketing and all you're doing is marketing and there's nothing behind the curtain. Obviously, you got to do something. But if you're a smart entrepreneur and a problem solver, once you start bringing in a lot more customers than you're comfortable with, I think you could probably figure out how to deliver.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's like you want to differentiate and get yourself out there enough. There's countless companies that have great products, great offers, great service, great people, but they're just stuck on we only get clients through this way, or we don't want to have to put all the work into content or stuff like that. But in reality, it's like that is often the differentiator between the absolute best businesses. They have a great product, great offer, and they just get that message out to the world to enough people.
Yeah, my business is still a small business, but the best companies don't necessarily deliver the best service. They're just the most well known.
Mm-hmm. And people have to be persistent along developing that, having the commitment to really getting both to the right level.
Yeah, it is a balance.
Mm. And then as you're looking forward into what's next for your company and the next level of risks, are there things that you've identified that you're working on today, perhaps as an entrepreneur itself? Maybe it's leadership, maybe it's better marketing, or what do those next steps look like for you as you grow this company?
Yeah, so one of the unique makeups of our company is we have employees on the back end that do like data and administration and customer service. But our people in the field that actually go to our tax hearings, they are all entrepreneurs who own their own small book of business, and they connect with us by plugging into our operations to be they're essentially a 1099 contractor, but they're a vital part of our team. We work like partners on every case. So they have that really awesome entrepreneurial spirit, but they may not have all the infrastructure to have all the back end. And I think all those things are important in running a big business. And so for us, I would love to continue building out that ecosystem of having all those entrepreneurs plug into us that want to run their own business and they're super specialized in property tax, but they may not want to deal with all the BS of running a business. So we're merging people with a bunch of different talents. And we can do that, I think, at a wider scale across a lot of different states. We're also getting more into business personal property tax. I think the average person may not know how much property tax exists. Every 18-wheeler you drive by on the road is property tax. Every item in the grocery store is property tax, not only sales tax. And so the businesses across the country, I think all 50 states have business personal property tax. They have to deal with that. And from our nerdy perspective of property tax, a lot of savings to be had there and a lot of opportunity. And again, I think we're the David against the Goliath. Like, maybe the big four, the KPMG, the UIs, they go and help Walmart with the property tax. Like, I can gain an edge by, okay, if I have the best consultants, say, take the Walmart example, that are in Arkansas, maybe that's an edge that I could get. That would be my long-term vision. I think that would take a lot of time. We're very focused on Texas. Texas is an amazing place that has millions of properties and millions of businesses. So that's our focus for now.
Hmm. And then as you're saying all that, I get a deeper understanding of the journey. And that's so 2019, you're out there, you're trying numerous things, and then you land on this one, that this is the best. I remember the initial conversations, like this one is just making more money than the others. And that appetite to just go out and try things, most people are like, no, I can't do multiple things. The internet or this person or that person says I shouldn't try multiple things, but in reality, in the early stages, you probably should, because there's things you're going to like better than others. There's systems and tech and processes that you're like, I like using these things and I find this fun. And when you're like in that early stage, that's a lot of what it is. You hone in on what makes money. So at that point, you're the entrepreneur. And even before that, you could say you were the employee because you experienced working for that firm back when you were in college. a little bit about the market. So you started as an employee, you turned into the entrepreneurs. How do I capitalize on this? Then you became the seller, right? You said that laser maniacal focus on sales, 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 generating pipeline. Then you became the servicer. You're like, I have all these opportunities. Now, how do we really service them? Then it was the marketer, and you're scaling the marketing, learning different platforms, different approaches. And now, as you're looking forward, it's becoming the platform for everybody else who's at some level along that journey. Maybe there's someone at that servicer stage that your backend can help out with getting them to the next level. So it's becoming a platform for all this that the KPMG
Yeah.
and the others don't see, or they aren't there to see the kind of the innovative approach that you might in this case.
Yeah, like Coca-Cola doesn't make Coca-Cola. They have distribution companies that make it with their recipe, and they own their own bottling business. So that's why they all taste a little different, and they can transport them how they want to transport them. That's very similar to what we're doing on a service business that has a lot of great scalability.
And let's talk about that. Go ahead.
I'm not interested in building a workforce of 1,000 property tax consultants that I have to train right out of college and spend millions of dollars doing that. They can go work at another company and then start their own little book of business and plug into me.
And through a lot of the things you've said, we're going to do this, we're not going to do that. And you have to make those decisions as an entrepreneur to carve out your specific area. As part of that, what you were saying is, let me catch my thought here. So connecting the dots, computing.
I'll say too, you mentioned, I would say chase the money, looking at, we keep talking about as a college person, and that may be what a viewer is looking at, or young, in their 20s, like, did I think property tax is going to be my calling? Probably not. But I knew I was in the real estate industry. So I love it from that perspective, but chase the money. I could run another business if the money's there.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Trying to capture the idea that I had here. But I think, oh, yes, that's what it was. Incentives. So when you say the word highly scalable, I get what you mean. But many people don't understand what actually makes an extremely scalable business, especially in the service business world. Like a lot of times service and scale don't typically go together. But to focus in on what I mean is your cost structure is and on the contrary side, to the benefit of your employees and the people, is a incentive-based system. So people can make more money, you have less capital outlay, and these people are more incentivized because they'll get a great percentage as if they were running their own business. They don't have to do it, and you don't have to lay out the salary costs and whatnot. So tell us a little bit about that level of scalability and really just incentive structures in general, because I think that they're very underutilized. I think when people are properly incentivized, magic can happen.
Yeah, that's a really good thought. So building the business, you got to stay conscious of your margins from the beginning, because when you do grow and it's finally clicking, you're going to wish you got that. So all of our consultants get a percentage of the tax savings. So about 30% of what they go and do. And then the company retains the remainder. And then our hard costs we keep very low. We're extremely disciplined. Actually, that's my business partner is way better at that than me. He's looking at every penny that comes in and out. And it's good that we have different talents. We have some employees from the administration side, and we have marketing costs, and really the marketing cost is the biggest one. We knew from the get-go, don't waste money on office space. That was before COVID. We don't do that. And our team is spread out through the state, so that wouldn't even make sense. We spend a little bit of money, a few $1,000 on printing. So we kept those margins really good. And so if we do, like, our consultants that are out in the field, it's the name of the license. I know it's a weird word, consultant, but they can handle thousands of accounts. Like the typical person in this industry probably can max out at around 2,000 properties they could work in a summer. Our consultants can handle 6,000 because A, they're motivated to get up and work their ass off because they can make a lot of money. And then B, like if they need to bring on an assistant or help or train someone on their own, they can. And they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax software that we don't have to front and pay the annual renewal bills on. And they can use the software that they like. There's a few softwares. So I don't know, that helps control a lot of our costs. But as a company, we have to deliver a ton of value to those consultants, setting up the cases, setting up the schedules, all the administration, and then we're all motivated to deliver for the clients, so that ultimately that's the engine that feeds us all. We got to keep retaining clients year after year and then adding new ones. And that's what we can focus on as a business instead of, I'm not thinking about tax cases right now. I'm thinking about our business.
Exactly. And that's what differentiates the entrepreneur versus the expert practitioner who's going to get in, they're going to run all tax season and just crush out these deals, but they're focused on their economics there in their bubble. But as the entrepreneur, you're saying, okay, there's 10,000 of these people, there's 500,000 cases. If I can make it easier for these people to do what they're really good at, I can get my percentage and my cut.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like you could apply the same thing. Like everyone knows someone in their company that's looking at like a ton of spreadsheets and they're like really drilled in. And could you imagine getting a call from a customer being like griping about that you didn't save them enough taxes? Like that doesn't work. And we were really good about separating people's talents.
And what about identifying those talents? In this case, in your business, a lot of people, when you're hiring new people or you're bringing somebody on, are like, how do you identify those talents? Or are they coming to you just saying, here's what I'm good at?
Yeah, so I actually Dan Martell is a really good resource for, I think, entrepreneurs and business owners. And I got two things from hiring from him that really help. One is when I'm posting any kind of job, I make them send a video recorded of why they want the job and like a few very basic questions. And you'd be amazed how many people like can't figure out how to record a video and like they'll do all kinds of crazy things like I couldn't upload it. Like they make all these excuses. So it eliminates 9 out of 10 people. It's amazing. And so that leaves you with the 1 out of 10. And then for those 1 out of 10, we go through really some kind of just very transparent interviews with the three partners. And then we say, hey, we'll give you a shot for 30 days. If we like working together, it works. If it doesn't, and usually it works. Sometimes it doesn't, but just work with them and find out because it's easier to do that than it is to get into the middle of being there a year and spending all those resources on them and it doesn't work out. From a 1099 contractor's perspective or an employee, we do both of those things.
There's a gain it. You need to gain it. You need to be able to put that video together. You need to be able to prove yourself out for those 30 days. And that's the right mentality. And then after that, a lot of your people are on this performance incentive plan. So let's talk about as you're scaling out more servicers, more providers, there's campaigns running for that too. Not only the people who need the properties, who need their properties assessed, but also for that side of the business as well. Or is that just been natural referrals? I think you said referrals are a very powerful part of your business.
So your question is, how are we getting more clients?
But yeah, more clients over here. And then you also have, my thought is you're also recruiting these people who are doing the servicing as well, right?
Yeah. So yeah, the supply and demand side, so if we post a job, we get a lot of applicants these days because our brand's a little bit better known, but that didn't used to be the case. We actually search the publicly available licenses and pull all that and pull every single person's name. And I have a person on my team that goes and finds their email addresses and goes on Google and who are the guys that are running a small shop that may be interested in contracting with us and just have a conversation. We do it very organically. I think both are good. Like posting on LinkedIn is good too, because you may have someone in our industry, contracting is a little bit more known. It's just a thing. And then on the client side, we do a lot. That's where I spend a ton of my energy thinking. It's Google ads, meta ads, SEO, content, blogs, case studies showing off all of our work on our website, warm outreach, cold outreach, email campaigns, partnerships and referrals, presentations, organic word of mouth, direct mail. So we have 15 things firing at all times, and we want all those levers. We want to be able to pull the levers as much as we can.
And as you were stacking up from one, now you're across 15, right? You started off with getting the message right. What are some of the things you found that were the biggest changes or in the success of your advertisements or your expansion of those platforms and channels?
So one cool thing about running a company for a few years is managing a healthy domain. So at first you can only email so many people without getting into their spam box. So over time, when you email thousands of people and they respond back, Google or whoever your domain is realizes that, and you can stack on it. You have to be super careful. That should be a college degree in itself. My business partner really runs that. He's a genius with it. And so that builds up a lot of goodwill for our company. I think another thing is also when you have thousands of clients is like educating them, like getting them on newsletters, really spending time with anyone and everyone on the phone and
Mm.
explaining like the boring and confusing parts of property tax. I'm sure every business has some component where they have to really educate their client to deliver their value, or else the client's going to leave or be frustrated. I don't know. That those are the two biggest changes. And of course, like we talked about earlier, I do not oversell people. You know what it is. You can go on our website. I can answer any questions you have. I'm not going to guarantee you anything. If you want to sign up and give us a shot, give us a shot. And that's different than other businesses because they don't have to spend any money up front, which is nice.
Mm.
So that builds a little bit of ease to it.
Two points off some of the stuff you said here is when it came to refining your messaging and the way that business works today, this is great for everyone to know. There's the education, there's the learning process. So you are out there educating people about property tax and what they could potentially be able to achieve in terms of savings and get that money back in their pocket. But then simultaneously, if you're a good business, you're also learning from them about the messaging that works, what matters, what they really are have gripes with or problem pain points, and what really motivates people to take those actions. So as you're going from that initial just making phone calls and things like that, you're learning. So that's a good point for everyone to know is they should be constantly using that marketing and sales interaction as engagement to think about how you make and then can scale out to those different channels and platforms.
Yeah, setting expectations is huge. Like I would love to post every case study on our website where we save someone 50 grand or 100 grand, but that's not realistic for every person's case. Maybe we save them 500 bucks, or maybe we save them nothing, or maybe
Yep.
we save them 2,000 bucks. But if they go on our website and they're expecting this to save 50 grand and then we don't, and they call and they're like, this wasn't any good, that would be dumb of me. So that marketing is all part of expectations, especially when you're in an industry where the average person does not want to go protest their property tax. They don't know how to appraise their house. They may just go up there and throw a fit and show some bad pictures of cracks in the wall, but there's a science to it. Yeah, setting expectations. We spend a lot of time as a company and a staff talking about that.
Great point. And then the other thing about what you mentioned as well is that's great for people to understand is the availability of data today. A lot of people, let's say they want to find those 1099 service providers who are really good. And this is probably how you start. You say, who do I know that's doing this? Okay, I know Fred. Fred's doing it. He can be our first guy. Fred knows 5 people. All right, there's 5 more of those people. You can do a whole referral loop that goes along with that. But that's a lot of work. And what you said is there's actually a database that you can go and access online that has all these people, and you can reach out to them in that way. And you take it down and say, all right, here's Fred and every other Fred that exists in Texas, and then break it down and reach out to a campaign. So I think one key point for people is just that availability of data. And it's the same for perhaps in my industry, in the management consulting world. I can go and find in 2 hours, I could have the name of every single banking executive in the United States that works at a company that makes over a 50 million a year. And then what happens is the next process is now how do I make these people interested in me and what I'm doing? And how can I help them become aware of the value
Yeah.
that I can provide them? So it changes the equation.
Yeah, and I think another like a word of encouragement is I don't think anyone gets pissed off that they get a marketing email or especially like a nice warm outreach. Like people do it to me all day long and I'm not offended. I might tell them like, no, thanks. You just got to ramp up the volume. Like if you're talking about your list right there, like just be hitting that list every single day, 50 people a day, and you're probably going to get one fish that bites. And that's a core of what we've built. And sometimes those lists may not have email addresses, so you may have to sit there and at night and dig on LinkedIn or whatever tool you have. Not everyone can afford Zoom Info. We don't even buy that for 15 grand a year, just because we know we have a data team that finds it ourselves. But at the beginning, like I remember it was a big victory to just find 10 emails. I'm like, okay, now I have a shot. I'll email all 10 in the morning.
Yep. Yeah. And then you were mentioning to connect some dots as well about the people that apply and their ability to just go on and use a video and submit you a video. It's you start out with that incremental one phone number, 2 phone numbers, 3 phone numbers. But as you've proven over your journey, now you understand business so much better. You understand where the data, where the market, what the messaging is. So for a lot of people that are like, I don't know all the facts. I can't start the business because I don't know the risks or this. It's like what would be your message for those people?
I don't even know everything. I'm trying to be a sponge. Like my hobby is like listening to business podcasts while I cook or walk that's fun to me. So I'm always learning. Like I've learned, I like being an ongoing student much more than I was actually a student. I hated school. So what we were talking about, emailing.
Yeah, just the message for people that are like, oh, I need to know everything. I need to, if I don't know this, then I can't start. And the message, because you've
Oh,
developed
yeah.
so much over the last 6 years.
Yeah, I would say just keep trying, just try small and see what works. If it doesn't work, be honest with yourself and try something else. A company looked totally different a few years ago, and we just kept throwing little things up against the wall without spending a lot of money.
Hmm. Which is, it's amazing. And then as you're looking forward, you mentioned it, I think it was our first conversation, or maybe it was our very first conversation, just about your approach now to building technology around the rest, or that your co-founder, if I'm remembering correctly, and now building technology to make your processes seamless and more efficient is actually a big key. So how are you guys going about thinking about that process, and what insights could other people glean from that?
Yeah, so we took a software CRM that exists, so Zoho, it's a big one, and I totally customized it around our systems and like our workflow. It's actually a passion of mine. I love if then type of statements. So I'm not a coder by any means, but I was able to build this really cool CRM that I don't think any property tax company has, because I've seen their property tax softwares and they're garbage out of like 1990s, just like most of their front end websites. So this CRM makes us be able to handle scale. It allows, I remember when we first were starting, our client, this, what we do takes a few months to deliver on our service. It's just what it is. And people would get frustrated. They're like, hey, what's the status of my case? Why haven't I heard from you? What's going on? And it sounds sketchy as like a business. You're like, we're doing everything we can, but clicked, we got to have an auto drip of every single type of stage and send them an email and build all that out. So that actually took a few years to build out and perfect. And we're still building on it, but it's a super powerful system that does come from a basic CRM that exists. So Zoho's great. I think there's other few competitors like Zapier and stuff that do different. That's a big one for us. My weekend project right now is I was playing with the OpenAI operator last night,
Hmm.
subscribed to that for the $200 a month, and my mind is blown because I let it go into our CRM and send an email and find out the status of a case and go look it up on the tax site, and it was super cool.
I got to check in it. I haven't
So
been,
it just released it. Just we're doing this on January 25th. I think they released it on like 22nd or 23rd.
geez,
It's its own browser that can go click and do things.
got it.
So we'll probably integrate something like that in the back end, or maybe on the marketing end. Like, let's unleash this thing to go find what we want to find for real estate properties or whatever it may be. It's a very advanced like crawler. Another technology we're building a client portal, so they don't have to wait for our emails or call us. We were probably overdue on that. We have a lot of projects and people to sign up quickly, low touch, because people are impatient. That is super cool. We spent a lot of thought on that. Of when someone signs up with us, it's like hiring an attorney to a sense. You have to sign all this boring paperwork, and we have to go pull all this information from a government office, and it's just dry paperwork. So if you send a DocuSign, half the people won't sign it. Now they can go on our website and literally be done in 20 seconds with accurate paperwork, so we can go do our job and facilitate getting thousands of clients.
Mhm. And we've looked at the business from the inside out, right? From kind of these processes that we're talking about and building on. But then there's also the outside in. And that is something we talked about in our first conversation. And that was really the market itself. You went out and you looked at the different participants in the market, and you saw that the websites are outdated. They're not doing the marketing and other things like that. So take people through a process of how they can understand the delta in their market. Because I mentioned, I have actually the same thing in management consulting, where a lot of the firms, they're older, they're established. The boutique ones are run by people who are probably 60, 65 years old, and their website's the same as it was 15 years ago, and things like that, and how you can create value by going through that process as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton of industries that exist for a reason, right? Like decade after decade. So now these boomers tend to own most businesses, if you're speaking from a macro level, and they've been really successful at whatever they may do, and they have gotten complacent. So as a younger person, something as simple as a good website, answering your phone with energy. Maybe it's adding a little bit of social media marketing, the new things that you know in your everyday life, and being able to slightly improve an existing type of service that exists. It takes away some risk for you that you're not starting the next new technology that you don't know if someone wants, or the next type of service that doesn't exist, because then you have to go prove it even harder to the market, which is great. That's how our world moves forward, but it's not for everyone. And sometimes just being in a small business, medium-sized business is really awesome too.
Fantastic stuff. And I just had to restart the stream there. That's what I was doing. I was just getting a few frames dropped, but I connected to my better internet. So we're all back and live on the stream.
All right.
So then as you're looking ahead, we talked a little bit about your vision and whatnot, but what are some other principles that you think people should have in mind as they're leaving this conversation and they're going back into their life? What are some of the things that they should know that you've learned that you want to stay with them?
Yeah, I would say you definitely got to make a lot of sacrifice. My friends pick at me because I'm always working, but that's not always the case anymore. I'm graduated from that in a sense, but for a long time, for the better half of 10 years, I'd work a lot of weekends, I'd work a lot of nights, and I just wanted to set my life up that way. I certainly don't walk around thinking I've made it, but I've put myself in a position that I built an asset rather than have a job, because I've made that investment in myself. It's super important to me and my wife that she probably is sick of me talking about that's what I want to build. And so doing what the average guy does, watching football on Sundays and drinking beer both nights of the weekend, probably won't get you to where you want to be. I gave up NFL football 7 years ago. I enjoyed watching it, but I enjoy building a business a lot more. So I think that there's a lot of cultural pull to do what everyone else is doing, try to go against that grain and take some of these things. And there's a lot of really awesome people, a lot of entrepreneurs that are on YouTube and that write great books. I tend to do a lot more reading in the past, but I've done more reading in the past, but now I'm starting to listen to more YouTube because I can do it while I'm doing other things and learning from that. And so I would hope that I can, maybe one thing I've said today helps a younger entrepreneur. That's pretty great.
Just constantly fueling your mind and feeding your mind the right information and none of the other stuff.
Yeah, and stay away from the get rich quick stuff. If you can get rich quick, you can get poor quick. I think stay away from relying on making trades or crypto coins to make it. Like, what have you done to really make that money? Like, maybe do that as a supplement once you have like true assets that cash flow, which would be a business. Don't try to find the shortcuts. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
And what about the sacrifices as well? The support from your wife, right? Your wife, yeah. Support from your wife. I know what's it? Buffett says the person that you marry is the most important part of your life if you make the right selection. Talk a little bit more about like the support that you get from her and other people around you, or maybe even some of the detraction, maybe not from her, but just in your life that you've experienced, some of that kind of, I have to prove this person wrong. Tell us a little bit about both sides and how those play into your life.
Yeah, my wife is amazing, and she believes in working really hard too. She's actually an investment banker, so she's super ambitious. We both are, and so that's at the forefront of who we are to set ourselves up for the rest of our lives. I think, I always have a chip on my shoulder to prove other people wrong in my life, but it's more of just being able to set up for freedom and success for my own self and my own family.
Mm-hmm. Charles, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. A lot of good insights here, many of which we didn't get to unveil. Like I said last time, you'll have to come here and visit in person when we do the upgrade and do a show and maybe enjoy.
Yeah, I'll come up into the snow and visit you, and we'll do it again.
Absolutely. And then we will include links, everybody, of where you can find Charles and everything of that nature. So Charles, it's been a pleasure having you here for episode 39 officially of Titans of Today.
Thanks, Jacob. Good to see you.
Likewise. Have a great rest of your day. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Titans Up Today. What did you learn from it? Make sure to drop a comment below with your most valuable insight so that other people can engage in the conversation around what this speaker brought to the table. And then on another front, make sure to subscribe so that every time we drop a new episode, you will be notified. And that way you can keep fueling your dreams and your brain with fresh insights, which can help you along your journey and along your path to your goals. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next interview.